Have you ever walked into a luxurious room and felt invisible? Other people's eyes skim past you, not to see you, but to judge you, the clothes you wear, the calloused hands from labor, or the job they consider menial. But what if I told you the one they look down on is actually the person holding every card on the table? Stay with me, because tonight we'll witness one of those sweet revenge moments everyone has dreamed of at least once. The story begins with a waitress named Maya. In a 5-star restaurant where a single glass of wine costs her an entire month's salary, Maya becomes the center of a public humiliation staged by the haughty girlfriend of a young millionaire. But this isn't a story about defeat, because only a few hours later, as dawn brushes the glass towers of the city, that same invisible girl will step into a cold boardroom and leave everyone who once despised her speechless. Aurelia, the restaurant has no sign. Only insiders know the way in. The air is saturated with the scent of white truffle. The chime of Christofle silver against Bernardeau porcelain plays like a familiar soundtrack. Here, even whispers are worth more than $1 million contract. Maya, in a neat black uniform, hair twisted into a tight bun, has been nothing more than a shadow for 6 months. To patrons, she is a pair of hands pouring water, a soft, polite voice, a fleeting presence that appears and vanishes. No one knows that beneath that stiff collar, Maya always wears a silver locket, the last gift from her late parents. Fewer still could imagine that the tiny apartment she rents in a working-class neighborhood is only a facade. Maya's real home is a sprawling penthouse with sweeping views of Central Park kept quietly lit by household staff. They don't know. They cannot imagine, but soon they will learn a costly lesson. To understand why Maya chose a life in hiding, we have to go back to where her greatest secret is kept behind glass walls. Maya's parents were not only brilliant programmers, they were pioneers who laid the groundwork for modern data security systems. The company they built, Vance Cybernetics, once shook Silicon Valley before being sold to Sterling Innovations in a blockbuster billion-dollar deal. That deal made the Vance family legendary and left Maya with a fortune so immense it felt abstract. But 2 years ago, when her parents died in a sudden yacht accident, that fortune became a gilded prison. Lavish galas, sealed-door board meetings, and a swarm of self-styled financial advisors, it all suffocated her. Money stopped being freedom. It became a barrier. Maya longed for something else, to see the world from ground level, where servers don't wear masks to impress, where truth reveals itself in idle chatter and the napkins left behind after a feast. So the billionaire heiress put on a black uniform, adopted a plain name Maya, and stepped into the role of waitress at Aurelia. 6 months. 6 months observing from behind the velvet rope. 6 months recording every snippet of conversation, every careless gesture that exposed the true nature of the powerful. Not a lecture at Wharton, not an analyst report, but the smirks and tipsy whispers gave her the clearest picture of society. Among everyone, Maya watched one figure stood out: Julian Sterling, the young CEO of Sterling Innovations, heir to the company her father once sold. He was polished with an easy smile, yet his eyes always hid a layer of exhaustion. Beside him, his new girlfriend, Tiffany Davenport, was the opposite portrait, sharp, loud, and casually dismissive of staff as a habit. Maya realized the legacy her parents left behind was being run by a man lacking backbone and was threatened by a hostile takeover. Everything sat neatly in the hands of those above her while she quietly poured their wine. But she knew the moment to shed the server's role was only hours away. That night, Aurelia blazed under crystal light. At table 7, the most powerful seat rang Tiffany Davenport's shrill laughter. A too-tight Cartier love bracelet flashed on her wrist like ambition worn outside the skin for the world to see. Julian Sterling sat beside her, still wearing a calm smile, but from behind the service tray, Maya could see the tension in his jaw. Maya approached, hands lifting a bottle of 1998 Chateau Margaux wine. A month's salary couldn't buy her a single glass. She leaned in, voice courteous. "Mr. Sterling, Ms. Davenport, your wine." Julian nodded politely. Tiffany did not. Her eyes skimmed the black uniform, the worn shoes, and stopped on Maya's hands. A flicker of a sneer flashed quick as a knife. "Funny, Julian. You think she knows anything about this wine? For her vintage probably means secondhand store." Soft snickers rose from nearby tables. Maya felt the scrutiny converging. She held the bottle steady, her face a cool mask forged over 6 months. But Tiffany wasn't finished. She blocked Maya's hand just as she began to pour. "Wait. Let me see your hands." The room went pin-drop silent. Julian frowned. "Tiff, what are you doing?" "Quality control," Tiffany replied, voice deliberately loud enough for nearby tables. "At a place of this caliber, staff should be immaculate." Maya slowly offered both hands, long, clean fingers but with an old scar at a knuckle. Tiffany pounced. "See an ugly scar. Not palatable for a $600 dinner." A nervous laugh somewhere. Heat rushed to Maya's face, but her eyes stayed calm. "I'm sorry if that displeases you." "May I pour?" Tiffany lounged back, a crooked smile. "Go ahead. Just try not to spill. I bet this bottle costs more than your shabby apartment." Maya bent to pour, her hand still sure, until Tiffany's stiletto nudged the service table. The bottle tipped a deep red arc, landing on Tiffany's pristine white Valentino dress. Sharp inhales, whispers. Then the room erupted like a script shattering. Tiffany leapt up screaming, "You clumsy maid! You just ruined my $12,000 dress!" No one knew that this moment of humiliation was the fuse for a classic reversal the next morning. Maya left Aurelia through the narrow passage into the alley behind the kitchen. No crystal lights now, only damp garbage and the cold breath of wet brick. Her back was straight step steady, but when the iron door closed behind her, her hands trembled. A hot tear traced down and was wiped away at once. Not because of Tiffany's dress, not because of public insults, but because of Julian's cowardly silence. The heir to her parents' legacy had bowed his head. The taxi took Maya to the small apartment in the working-class block, her half-year disguise. This time, instead of stopping in the familiar alley, her voice was firm, Central Park West. Penthouse. An hour later, Maya stepped into her real space. Cold white marble floors, glass walls to the ceiling, Manhattan glittering below. A place that once felt alien now felt like armor. In the study waited Arthur Kensington, her family's elder lawyer, her father's friend. A Macallan 25 glowed amber on the table beside a thick stack of files. "Welcome back, Maya. Or rather, Ariana Vance." Arthur nodded, eyes keen. She sank into the leather chair, shoulders loosening after a day playing the invisible servant. "She wanted me fired in front of everyone," Maya said, voice low and husky with restrained anger. Arthur slid the dossier toward her. That was just the prelude. The real danger is Harrison Shaw secretly hoarding shares through layers of shell companies. He wants to carve up R&D, your father's pride, and sell it off. And someone on the board helped him. Maya flipped through pages, financial charts, board bios, internal reports. Each number, each detail clicked into a mind as sharp as her parents'. The submissive waitress was gone from her eyes. They think EV Capital is just a nameless fund. They have no idea I hold 15% myself." Maya's voice hardened. She stood and faced the window, the sleepless city below casting neon on a face transformed, proud, resolute. "Arthur prepped the Navy Tom Ford. Call the proxy team. Tomorrow morning, I'm no longer Maya the waitress. I'm going to teach Julian Sterling what leadership responsibility means." Morning. The 40th floor of Sterling Innovations was awash in cold light. The board gathered around a colossal mahogany table. The aroma of dark roast coffee mingled with a heavy tension. Julian Sterling entered tie, a little loose smile strained. He knew this would be the most crucial meeting of his life, where rumors of Harris & Shaw's hostile bid were hardening into fact. Marcus Thorne, the silver-haired chairman, tapped the gavel lightly. "Let's begin." But the heavy double doors swung open. Heads turned. Arthur Kensington walked in first, composed, followed by a woman in a navy Tom Ford suit. The click of Manolo Blahnik heels rang sure on marble. Julian froze. This was no longer the deferential waitress. The woman before him radiated command, dark hair falling softly, a face lit by unshakable confidence. "Allow me." Arthur set a hand on her shoulder, voice resounding. "You know her on the books as EV Capital holder of 15% of the shares. Today, I present her true identity. Ariana Vance." A ripple surged through the room. The floor seemed to tilt under Julian's feet. Ariana, the only daughter of Robert Vance, to whom this company owes its security foundation. The woman he and his girlfriend had humiliated in public the night before. From the back, Tiffany let out a bitter laugh. "They let the waitstaff into board meetings now. Is this a joke?" Ariana flicked her a glance, cold as a blade, then faced the board. "Gentlemen," her voice carried precise and cutting, "I'm not here to spectate. I'm here to say this company is off course. You've over-prioritized short-term profit and neglected R&D, the most valuable asset my father left." That complacency opened the door to Harris & Shaw. Some members frowned, but none could refute her. For the next 10 minutes, Ariana laid out numbers, stalled projects, and the talent exodus. Without raising her voice, she dissected like a surgeon. When she finished, the room was absolute silence. Ariana closed the file and looked straight at Julian. "Therefore, I move for a vote of no confidence in the current strategy, and I propose a new plan: reinvest 25% of profits into R&D for the next 5 years. It's the only way Sterling Innovations survives." The air seemed to detonate. Last night's waitress had become the one holding the board's fate, and the real battle had only just begun. The boardroom air felt frozen. As Ariana's words faded, confused, suspicious, and horrified looks converged on her, but she wasn't done. "One more thing," Ariana lowered her voice, eyes sweeping the glossy wooden chairs. "Harris & Shaw knows our weak points too well. Someone in this room has been feeding the wolf at our door." A murmur rippled. Some faces stiffened. Others hid behind awkward smiles. Ariana opened a leather case and drew out a thick envelope. She set it on the table, unzipped it, revealing bank records, shell company names, offshore accounts. Arthur stood beside her, warm tone turned steely. These document transfers from a Shaw shell company into a Cayman account held under the maiden name of Mr. Richard Davies's wife. All eyes locked on the silver-haired stalwart who'd been the board's bulwark for 3 decades. Davies shot to his feet, face flushed. "Nonsense. I've given my life to this company. You slander an old loyal man to make yourself shine." Ariana remained calm. She slid a statement toward him, the figure stark $2 million transferred the day before Shaw filed his bid. Davies's hands trembled. His defense died in his throat. Chairman Marcus Thorne pounded the table. "Mr. Davies, explain yourself." Silence. Then he collapsed back into his seat, shoulders shuddering. The room buzzed like a rising tide. In a corner, Tiffany sat pale silent for the first time since arriving. "You betrayed my father's memory and the thousands of employees who still believe in this company," Ariana said for the first time, letting pain thread through her anger. "And now you will leave?" Marcus signaled security. 2 suited guards entered, gentle but firm, and escorted Davies out. The door slammed, leaving a heavy hush. Ariana turned back to the table, voice ironclad. Sterling Innovations just had a malignant tumor removed. "It's time to stop lying to ourselves. Either we are reborn or we vanish from the map of global technology." The board held its breath. They knew this wasn't just a meeting. It was judgment. And the woman once publicly humiliated had become the judge. The echo of the closing door after Richard Davies still hung in the air when the room's mood shifted. Some board members bowed their heads. Others nodded in reluctant agreement. In the far corner, Tiffany Davenport sat, rigid, crimson lips trembling. Suddenly she rose and hurried to Julian, her voice turning honey-sweet. "Julian, you see, Ariana is incredible. We should work with her. I think we could invite her to dinner, start over?" The fake smile couldn't hide the panic in Tiffany's eyes. She was grasping at the last threads of status. Ariana only raised an eyebrow, her glance sliding past like a thin blade. Julian stood slowly. "Tiffany," his voice low. Nothing like the softness he'd shown at Aurelia enough. She stared, stunned. What do you mean?" Julian drew a breath. Eyes fixed on Ariana, the woman who had exposed the truth and lit the room with sheer resolve. "You humiliated an employee in front of dozens of people. You demanded she pay just to flaunt cheap power. And I stayed silent." Tiffany cut in, desperate. "It was a misunderstanding, a no boy." Julian's tone was final, eyes ice cold. "We're done. Right now. No room for negotiation." Tiffany froze, then broke into sobs. She snatched her bag and stumbled out, leaving a heavy quiet behind. Julian turned back to Ariana. He bowed, his head, voice tight but sincere. "I owe you an apology. Not because of who you are, but because I let a human being be degraded and did nothing. I failed as a leader and as a person." The room held its breath. Ariana studied him a long moment, eyes both cool and carrying a sliver of hope. "An apology is a start, but actions decide everything. This company cracked under cowardice and compromise. If you truly want to make it right, start today." Julian nodded, steadier than ever. For the first time, he felt redemption within reach. 6 months have passed since the morning Ariana Vance walked into the Sterling Innovations boardroom and changed everything. The city is still loud, but inside headquarters the air is different, fewer dull meetings about dividends replaced by lively sessions with engineers and researchers. Those once forgotten in R&D have their voices back. They call it the Ariana effect. Without a title, without a nameplate on an office door, she became the center of a cultural reset. Instead of sitting in a glass eyrie, Ariana frequented the labs, sat with young engineers, listened to ideas shelved for years. Advanced cybersecurity projects, once blocked for no immediate return, got a green light. The first product, a next-gen data security system, stunned the market, and rival Harris and Shaw withdrew from the field. Julian changed too. The showy suits and stock market-pleasing persona vanished. He appeared in small stand-up sleeves rolled, taking notes like a diligent student. Each time Ariana saw it, she knew the man who kept silent at Aurelia had rediscovered real leadership. One early autumn afternoon on the Sterling Tower rooftop, golden light washed the horizon. Julian approached Ariana smiling as he handed over a resolution approved by the board, reinvesting 25% of profits into R&D for the next 5 years, locking in the legacy her father had dreamed of. Your plan? No. Our plan has been approved. Ariana nodded, a calm smile. Yes, ours. She looked down at the city, a weight lifted. 6 months ago, she only wanted to restore her dignity. Now she had found something larger: responsibility and trust. The story doesn't end in vengeance, but in a legacy restored, and the message still resounds: never underestimate a person just because they wear a simple uniform. True power lies in intellect and character. And that's the story, from a public humiliation in a restaurant to a decisive morning in a boardroom where truth and dignity flipped the table. Ariana proved that a person's worth isn't defined by a uniform or a title, but by intellect, resolve, and steadfastness in the face of injustice. If this story touched you, let us know by hitting like to spread the message. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next stories where justice, dignity, and truth always come to light. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever been misjudged, then proved to the world who you truly are? Share your experience in the comments below. Your story might inspire thousands of others. Remember, never underestimate anyone. The person you look down on today might be the one holding the key to tomorrow's change.